Hey guys, welcome back to another episode here on Hacks and Hobbies. Today I'm thrilled to have a special guest, Philip Pape, joining us. Philip is the host of the top 1.5% nutrition podcast, Wits Weights, and a certified nutrition coach known as a Physique Engineer. Now, through his own remarkable transformation, Philip discovered the immense power of strength training and evidence-based nutrition to enhance health, performance, and physique. Now, he's on a mission to help ambitious individuals in their 30s and 40s, me included, this guy, and beyond, build muscle, lose fat, break through plateaus, and optimize their hormones and metabolism. I didn't know metabolism or hormones was a thing, but we'll see what it really means. So, without further ado, Philip, thanks so much for coming on to the podcast.
Janae, thanks for having me on, man. This is quite a setup here, so I appreciate being on here with you.
Absolutely, man. I want to make sure that I bring the best to the best. I mean, you are doing some amazing things, and I cannot wait to learn more. Like, is hormones really a thing for men? I mean, I heard mostly it was for women, but I guess we all have some kind of things in our bodies.
I mean, we all have testosterone, and that's really pivotal to building muscle. And it's more about, when I say optimizing the hormones, I'm more talking about how chronic dieting can suppress your hormones and cause all sorts of side effects. So that's where I'm coming from there.
So are there different types of hormones in body? Like, is testosterone a type of a hormone?
Testosterone's a hormone, cortisol, right? The stress hormone. We all have insulin, which you hear about. We talk about blood sugar and insulin sensitivity and diabetes. And then there's thyroid hormone, which up here in our neck, which actually is the metabolic regulator for us. So they're extremely important as signalers for the body.
Wow. So hormones is basically a group of type of chemicals in our bodies?
Yeah, they're chemical signalers is what they are.
Signalers. Yeah. Okay, Philip. Now, talk to me about how you got into this. What gave you the insight? Hey, I want to do this, or I want to help people. Was this something that you're going through it yourself? Give us a little background.
Yeah, it's exactly right. So my background's in engineering, software engineering, and then engineering management for big high performing teams at an aerospace company. And you're like, what is this guy doing talking about nutrition? But I was a dad. Became a dad 12 years ago, and I started to get that dad bod and some of the insecurities that come along with poor health. Not to mention blood work and other indicators, autoimmune condition that I have, and others that said, there's a wake-up call. I've got to do something different. But like many people out there, you may be in this ballpark. There's a lot of misinformation in the industry. And even if you are an action taker, like, I'm a hustler, I'm an action taker. If you tell me to do something, I'll do it. But if what I do doesn't work, that kind of breaks the feedback loop and discourages you from wanting to do that again. Or worse, you think that it can't work for me, right? So when I finally, I'll say, figured it all out, and this was only about 4 or 5 years ago, a lot of that was during the pandemic, and started to have my own transformation. Eventually, I wanted to share about it, created a podcast, and that eventually led to coaching because I wanted to help people like me. And I'm in my 40s as well, so I get it. And I've learned a lot about men and women now in that age group.
Wow, that's so cool. So to go more into it, your podcast, Wits and Weights, gaining significant popularity, was that something that you started to get into understanding this, or was that an afterburner of, hey, I've gone through this, I've helped myself, let's create a podcast around it?
The latter, more the latter. I had gone through it, and not only gone through kind of the basics, but also I had a back surgery that I had come through the other end of. And all that recovery and the ability to use my strength that I had developed to recover faster, I realized how important it was for us to just be stronger. I mean, we'll talk about nutrition, health, and all that, and food and everything, but I think it comes down to strength and muscle for us as we get older. A famous guy, his name is Mark Ripito, wrote Starting Strength, said, stronger people are harder to kill, right? And that says it all right there. The older we get, stronger people are harder to kill. So in late 2021, I started a podcast as an enthusiast. I just had a passion for it, and I had no idea what I was doing. It was a Toastmasters project, the public
Nice.
speaking organization.
Yeah.
And I just jumped into it like with some cheap equipment, in my closet, and I started popping out episodes. And then eventually it built from there, and we can get into the details. But yeah, that's how it started.
Oh, that's so cool. So, as you started this podcast, as you gained more popularity, what was the key theme that people keep coming back to the podcast? And was that mostly the transformation that you went through it? Tell me more about that experience.
So why people are drawn to the podcast? Man, that's a hard question to ask, Junaid. Why are people drawn to your podcast? It's probably because of you, right? So you would hope so.
Yeah.
Because there's information, and then there's the people who share that information and where they're coming from and their stories, and kind of resonating with the person who's listening has to see themselves in you. And so when I bring guests on and talk to them, or when I talk about a topic, as much as I'm an engineer and I love systems and I love data and information, I have to remind myself to bring it back to, what is this problem we're trying to solve
Yeah.
for people? And when I get to Wikipedia, like on my episodes, people will call me out on that. Like, hey, we don't just want to hear you talk about that. We want to see how this all relates to real life. And so I guess the biggest thing, Junaid, is explaining things in an understandable way and connecting evidence to practicality. Connecting the science and the stuff out there to how do you actually implement it.
I love that so much. So talk to me about the transformation. When did it hit you? I'm like, okay, I really need to go deeper into it. Talk to me about that approach and how that influences how what you teach others.
Yeah, I've thought a lot about this. There's an element of personal growth we all go through as we get older where we question certain assumptions we had, especially when they don't work. And for me, that was like diets. Diets just for some reason didn't seem to work even when I did them right. And so I started to question the assumptions, and I threw out everything that I had in my head about this, about fitness in 2020 when I had a lot of time on my hands working from home during the pandemic. And I started to read more and listen to more podcasts and more videos. And the more you dive into something with a level of obsession, that's like a healthy level of obsession, you start to see patterns, and then you start to see things that don't make sense. As long as you're careful and don't just follow the latest influencer on Instagram, stick with long form content. Books and podcasts, I think, are really good. You find the expertise and you start to see patterns. And I came across starting strength. I came across the muscle and strength pyramids. And then I came across flexible dieting. And we can get into what all that is, but I was able to start training in a way that progressed my muscle and my strength meaningfully. And then I was able to eat in a way that made me look the way I wanted. And so once I kind of coupled the two together, then I started to take off, and I was like, I have clarity and confidence, and I want to give other people the same thing.
Yeah, that's really powerful, mainly because so my wife's been on a journey of finding the right diet herself, right? Because, we have 4 kids, and she's like, okay, I want to get back to that. And she's like, how are you eating all sorts of crap and then you're still, looking good? Now, I'm not in the best of health. I'm slim. I'm losing weight because I'm limiting how much I'm eating, but I'm still not eating as clean as I should be. I have pain in my toes. I have pain through arthritis or what do you call it, gout and whatnot, and have a history of it. But I know I could do so much better. So walk me through how someone like me could, what would be the first thing that you would mention, that you would say, hey, you should start over here and then move on into the nutrition side. Either you start with nutrition or you start with strength training. Which one do you think would be the best one?
Yeah. If you're going to put me in that box, I'm going to start with lifting weights 100%.
All right, okay.
And I say that because I know plenty of individuals who have decent amount of muscle, and it gives them a lot more tolerance for eating a less optimal diet and for carrying extra body fat and extra weight. Their blood markers and their health tend to be better because of the extra muscle. So I would start there, but it's not mutually exclusive. Of course, you can do both.
Yeah.
And you'll find that if you start lifting weights, you're going to want to eat in a way that supports that the lifting of weights. And that's where the diet transforms from losing weight to performing and to being an athlete and to actually feeling and looking good. And so it's a different mindset.
That's really cool because I'm always intrigued by, okay, I need to take action, right? I can clean up the diet and start eating, but I don't feel like I'm doing a lot just by eating, because I think it's a longer it takes a lot longer for the nutrition to start affecting your body, as opposed to if you were to start strength training.
It's interesting you say that, right? Because you can you can very quickly cut or add calories with food
You're right.
and change things quickly. But what I'm hearing you say, and I get where you're going, is to actually transform your physique and your body composition, and not just be skinny fat, for example, because there are plenty
Right.
of people who are light on the scale but
Yeah.
not very healthy. They
Hmm.
might have high cholesterol. To actually improve your physique, it's going to take time to figure all that out from the nutrition perspective and fuel yourself appropriately. But you're doing it in conjunction with the building muscle.
You got to do it
Yeah.
together. So what I was thinking is a little bit flawed. Again, I didn't do too much research into it, right? So it's just my mindset of what it does, what it is. And it kind of makes sense, because in 2017, I did a lot of cycling. I did a ton of cycling, did, 1,500 miles of riding, and all came because I kept riding every day. And I don't know if I was feeling healthier, because I still had knee pain. So maybe I needed to level up my nutrition as well.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to like, so what we're going to find out through our discussion, right, is it's so personalized. And that's probably principle number one that people violate when they go and they say, do keto, do carnivore,
Mm,
or be a vegetarian. It's like, do you understand like what I like to eat, how I train, how I sleep, what my body is like, my
yeah.
dieting history, on and on and on. How much protein, carbs, and other macros do you need for you, and what are you doing? So personalizing it is the best way to make it sustainable, right? Because if you just cut carbs, but you love carbs, that's not going to last.
No, it's true. I just love carbs. I mean, I've added a level of protein in my carbs. Like, I'm having nuts with Nutella. I don't know. It tastes really good, but it has a lot of nutrition, fat content. I don't know. I need to work on my diet for sure. So, talk to me about what are some key principles of strength training, nutrition, that individuals in their 30s and 40s should focus on. And we talked about a balance of the two, but
Mhm.
let's go into the
Yeah. So
principles.
starting with the lifting weights, there are lots of ways to move, and that's where it gets confusing for people because if you read the newspaper or that say when you're in your 70s, just move, just go for walks. The problem is we are losing a lot of muscle mass. I know you had a
Hmm.
guest on recently that talked about some nutrition and muscle facts. I'm not going to repeat it, but we lose a lot of muscle as we age.
Mm,
Women lose even more, and they start at a disadvantage. And then the hormones exacerbate that the hormone imbalances in peri and postmenopause. So you're losing all this muscle mass that eventually leads to frailty, and you're easier to kill, right? Like I said, you fall, you break a hip, all those things. So lifting weights is important. The problem is, how do you do that? So I would say start 2 or 3 days in the gym, lifting weights primarily with either barbells or dumbbells or machines. And we can get into nuances. I don't know how prescriptive you want to get on this show, but
yeah, yeah.
the key for people is to progress over time. So something has to progress. It's a principle called progressive overload, where you're training really hard. You go in on Monday and you do your squats or you do your bench press or whatever. Then on Wednesday or Friday, whenever you go in next, you do the same lifts and you go up in weight or you go up in reps. That is so, and I take it for granted now, Junaid, but a lot of people are going to the gym just doing the same weights, the same machines. Nothing has changed. They get
Mm,
sweaty. They feel like they got to work out, but they're not stimulating their muscle growth at all. And that is
uh,
not lifting. So you've got to progress over time, and there's sub principles within that we can get into, but that's like the big one. I don't know if you
okay.
want to ask about that, or I can do
Yeah,
nutrition.
yeah. Please, let's go
Yeah,
deeper into that one.
deeper into that one. Okay, so yeah, what are the myths that you hear? Like, what do you hear, Janae? What's the misunderstandings people might have?
No, so what I've read and what I've seen in lifting weight is, again, you either increase your repetition or increase the weights, or you got to work it so that you're really feeling that you're like you want to be sore the next day, right? Is that a good aspect of it, looking at it? Because meaning If you're sore, that means your muscles are rebuilding. You've broken down enough that they're going to grow.
So that's a potential myth that we can address in that
Okay, good.
you should get sore the first time you do a lift, right? And then after you've done it, say twice, you shouldn't get very, very sore after that because your body's adapted to it. If you are, however, under recovered, under eating, not sleeping enough, constantly switching up your workouts to be different lifts every time, or you're doing too much cardio or something like that where you never give yourself time to recover, then you might feel sore and it's not necessarily a good thing. So it's understanding where the soreness comes from.
Okay, so understand where the soreness come from, and I think that's where it's really important to work with a coach, so they kind of tell you, okay, if you're sore all over, that means you're not getting enough rest, or you're not giving your body enough nutrients and foods.
Yeah, I think working with a coach is super important at the beginning at least. And I was in denial about this myself. I mean, I get when you're the type of person, it's like, I can do it on my own. I can just read all about it. I can watch videos. You know, I struggled for about 6 months trying to get my squat up, for example. And then I went to see a coach, and in 1 hour, he fixed everything that I struggled with for 6 months. And I literally just paid him for 1 hour. So I didn't even sign a contract or anything.
Sure.
You know, that's how valuable an expert can be in just looking at you, giving unbiased feedback and helping you fix it. So form and technique are really important when you lift weights, right? Because we don't want to get injured. It's great to deadlift. It's great to squat. It's great to bench. But a lot of people are afraid of those things because they hear like, oh, you're going to get hurt or something. You know, doing it wrong will hurt you. Doing it right will not. And for many people who have pain in their joints, like knee pain, low back pain, I've seen the pain get alleviated when you start lifting weights, because now you're building the muscles that support your spine, that support the joints, right? It's like a counterintuitive thing that people need to understand.
Dude, that's so powerful. And I'm thinking about recovery when my aunt got her knee replacement surgery done. They said you got to keep working those muscles so that you get comfortable and those muscles are getting stronger. So I think the same thing goes, that as a regular person, you just need to strengthen your muscles so that you can go longer, farther. Like you said earlier, it's harder to kill strong people. And we've actually seen that in Jack Reacher. I'm like, dude, why don't you just die?
Yeah. Yeah, I know. And it's like, and by the way, for the listener, the people watching, I'm not talking about you have to like fight, you know, or be an action hero. Literally just getting sideswiped by a car when you're 75. The difference between you dying because things break and you're in the hospital and on drugs and you can't recover versus you get up and maybe you have some bruises. That's really, really important. Not to mention, everybody knows a parent or grandparent who can't get off the toilet, who can't get off the couch. That's functional. And we assume that like that's what an old person is. And I'm telling you, it is not. We can build muscle till our 90s. And I've seen people who start in their 70s, start in their 80s, and they actually build new muscle. And all of a sudden, it just reverses all of that decline they've had. And they're like 20 years younger. I mean, don't you want that? Everybody wants that, right?
Yeah. Man. All right, let's switch gears. Talk to me about how you help clients break through fitness plateaus and optimize their hormones and metabolism. Now we're, kind of switching gear to the nutrition side of things.
Yeah, I mean, I throw out the buzzword plateaus because it's what people use to mean I'm stuck, right? Like I'm trying to lose weight and I'm stuck. And here's what I hear, Junaid. I hear, I am 45, my metabolism has slowed down, I can't lose weight anymore, right? Or no matter how many calories I cut, I can't lose weight. And you have plateaus in the other direction too with building muscle, but 90% of the time people are not talking about that.
Yeah.
So we have to unravel what's going on with your body and why these things happen. And some of it does come down to muscle and that supports your metabolism, but other things might be your lifestyle, how much stress you have, if you're not getting enough sleep, if you're not eating enough protein, like all of those things add to the stress load on your body. And when that happens, your body clamps down and it tries to conserve calories. On top of that, a lot of people, especially women, at least 100 times in their lifetime, are constantly dieting. So they're constantly dieting for years and years. Like they're never getting out of that deficit, that calorie deficit. And they don't even know where their true maintenance calories are. They don't know what it feels like to be fully recovered. So when I talk about plateaus, I have to have a process, like a methodology to take someone through where step one, we start tracking your information, your data, your food, your lifts, your weight, your biofeedback, your measurements, like the whole thing that measures you.
Yeah.
And we get awareness. And sometimes that awareness is enough to change behavior without me even telling you what to do, right? Then you recover, right? You recover, you start eating more carbs. Like, you're like, really? Yes, you eat more, but you're eating the right things. And you're eating more protein and fiber, for example, and you're hydrating. You're eating more and you're supporting your lifting. Then when you're recovered, now we can say you're in a good position for fat loss. And now we can avoid those dreaded plateaus because we know where you are now, where you want to be, what it's going to take. And we track the data the whole way, just like a good engineer, just like we're collecting the data and the feedback, and we can be precise and we can get in, get out, and get back to where you want to be with a leaner body, hopefully coming out of it.
I love that you say that, because when you're tracking this data, you know exactly what you did, what you put in your body, and now you're getting the feedback. And that's, I think, what you call the evidence-based nutrition. You have the evidence. Hey, this is what I put in my body. This is the result. It's working. I can continue going this route, and you'll see exactly you'll see exactly in the data if you're going the opposite way, and then you can make adjustments and find the right path.
I love that you said evidence. So this is great because you didn't ask me to define evidence-based, but you said you interpret it as the N equals 1, I call it, sample size 1, right? Yourself, right? You're your best KPI, right? Like that is the best evidence. Because usually when people think evidence-based, they think science-based. Like you take what the science says, this is how much protein you need, this is how many sets you need to do in the gym. And that's true. We use those as like guidelines and work within this huge range for the population. But then your evidence is what overrides any of that, because you collect the data and it says, nope, for you, you need to do this. And this is what's going to work. So I love that, Janae, that you mentioned that. There was one other thing. Oh, and that is you've got to measure the right things, right? If you just measure scale weight, that's not going to be enough to tell you if you're building muscle, losing fat. All it's going to say is that you have less gravity pulling you to the earth.
Yeah.
Oh, I hear somebody.
I got my little man over here. He came down. Say hello.
Hey there, buddy. How's it going? We've got a couple girls here too. I know how much fun life can be at your age.
So much fun. Yes, he just turned 2 years old this last Sunday. So he's
happy birthday.
He's having so much fun.
I
He
bet.
said, "Can you find Appy? Can you find Appy and the baby?" Appy. Yeah, go call her. Call Appy, bring her here. Tell Appy to come. Go call Appy. Yeah, go call her.
Hey man, that's life,
He just loves coming here, hanging out with Dad. Can never get.
Of course.
And I even put a swing back here. I don't know if you can see it.
Yeah, I see it.
Man, this is so much fun, especially understanding it from the right perspective. And not only that, you've gone through this transformation, you've seen the evidence that it's worked for you and it's working for other people that you've worked with. I totally love that. How are you incorporating positive psychology and gut health into your coaching? Because gut health is absolutely something that I discovered, I think, a few years ago, and I bought into Dr. Gundry's the complete 3 gut thing. It's really important because that's basically our second brain. So how do you incorporate all of that into your coaching?
So you mentioned positive psychology, so that's one topic, and gut health. We'll start with gut health since you ended with that. Yeah. So I've had a lot of experts on lately related to gut health on my show, just because I'm trying to learn more about it. It is very complicated, and I think it's one of the few areas in the fitness industry that is not really overhyped compared to other areas. Like intermittent fasting and diets and all that tend to be overhyped. Gut health is really important, right? And however, there are the basics and then there's the optimization. And sometimes people go overboard with trying to do all the I'm not going to say silly, but all the like fine tuning little things. It's like, I'm going to eat more kimchi and I'm going to take my probiotic and this and that. When in reality, you're just not eating enough fiber. You're not eating enough fruits and vegetables. And at the end of the day, a diverse diet that's full of fiber is probably the foundational thing that's going to improve your gut microbiome. Now, what I learned, Janae, is very interesting, that we have millions of species of bacteria, and they all eat something different. And as we age, they start to die off because we're not feeding them. And some of the like bad bacteria starts to take over when we feed them not so great foods, right? And probiotics are a good way to counteract that. But then you start introducing a lot more diverse foods. And one expert that came on my show, Justin Cottle, he's like a cadaver anatomy expert. So he comes from anatomy research. He said, yeah, not only that, if you have multiple types of the same foods, like multiple types of apples and types of squash, each of those have their skin has different bacteria than the other. And that's a good way to encourage diverse. So I keep stealing his tip because I love it. So that like, yeah, so I'm all about the basics. I'm like, look, if you're not eating fiber, fruits, and vegetables, don't worry about like kimchi and sauerkraut. Don't worry about, like even necessarily taking a probiotic, although I think it's safe to do that and you might as well, right? It's like a multivitamin. You might as well play it safe. So that's my thought on gut health. Obviously you want to measure it on the other end. So how do you measure gut health? Bowel movements, digestion, gas, like bloating. It's obvious because your gut is so sensitive to things that you will know when things are wrong. Don't ignore them. Like smelly gas, like there's stuff like that. It's telling you something is happening and maybe you need to change things up.
How to know what's happening in your body? Make sure you don't have smelly gas.
I mean, too much protein will give you that too sometimes.
It does. It also reminds me of this amazing book that I've recently finished listening to, Green Lights, for the second time by Matthew McConaughey. I don't know if you've heard of it, but he visited this African village, and he really absolutely loves this musician. And he's like, dude, you should come to the U.S. He's like, no, man, my music is not wet shit. Wet shit is something that sticks around, you can smell it, it's dry shit over there. So you gotta stop.
Oh, there's an analogy, yeah.
Gotta be wet. I know this is not rated, and I don't know if that word constitutes, like, I think we can say shit without saying this is explicit material. I don't know.
I mean, times have changed. Who knows?
All right, let's move to the next part about positive psychology. Talk to me about a little bit more about that.
Yeah, I love this. So I took some training at UPenn in this area, and it's fascinating because when you think of psychology, you think of the mind and how it works. And oftentimes we think of solving issues with the mind and mental disease and stuff like that. Positive psychology says, well, good and bad aren't opposites. They kind of go hand in hand. And rather than just try to fix the bad, why don't we add in more of the good? And evidence has shown that when we can do that, we can have more meaning and purpose in our life and a more optimism type bias. And when it comes to fitness, that is huge, like mental positive reframing and coming from a lens of, I can do this and I'm going to do it because of some value-based goal that I have that gives me meaning and purpose, that I can get engaged in, that I enjoy. Like going to the gym shouldn't be punishment, right? Eating your food shouldn't feel like you're depriving. Anything that goes against your instincts as just a human of goodness, with goodness is a red flag that there's a different way. And so when I talk sustainability, that's really at the core. What I mean is, can you do this the rest of your life and is it in line with your values and your kind of positivity as a human? And it's a whole field. So like there's a million things under there, but that's the gist of it. I can't hear you, Junaid.
That's awesome because I'm all for positive psychology, positive thinking, positive mantras, and not just mantras, but it helps you reframe and helps you keep in a positive light. It's almost like when we love the sun, right? Anytime the sun's out, everybody's out. It's you getting energy, you getting all this positive vibes from it. So being positive is the same thing. You're being the sun for other people around you because it's easy to be the night. It's easy to be negative, and there's so many more of those people in the world. So might as well have a positive routine. Whatnot.
Yeah, and there's a technique I don't want to say I just learned it, but I learned a new name for it. I don't know if you've heard of mental contrasting. It's a visualization technique. And I had another guy on my show, Adam Pullman. He had posted about it recently, so we chatted about it. But it's the idea that not only do you visualize who you're going to be, you visualize what challenge you're overcoming by being that person. So when we talk positivity or positive psychology, we're not talking about delusional positivity of just like
Yeah.
being in denial. We are saying that we can do this thing despite this thing. And it's okay to acknowledge the other thing and go ahead and acknowledge it, because now
Yeah.
you're saying you're overcoming it, and then you take action to do that. It's pretty cool.
I love that. I'm gonna have to go check more of that episode out for sure, because um I've been a, I've been in a positive mindset for some time, thanks to Tony Robbins. Listening to him almost 20 years ago, for the first time, I watched him on a late night infomercial, right? And I ordered those CDs.
Mhm.
Man, it's my life has changed since then, so I'm super grateful for all of that. Let's take a quick break, Philip. I'm enjoying this conversation. It's in line with where I want to be. You know, lose that fat and gain that muscle and be more strong. So then I don't have that back pain or the neck pain and the knee pain. Like, I'm an old man, turned 48. So definitely, I love all of the stuff that you've been sharing. Let's take a quick break, and when we get back from the break, you're gonna help us, give us some hacks that we can take action and apply it in our lives.
Sounds good.
Awesome. Hey guys, we've been talking with Philip Pape, but what's really cool is that the power of podcasting. Now, if you haven't been podcasting for a while, or you have thought of starting a podcast, now is the best time ever. Maybe it was 2 years ago for you, but I think now is the best time ever. And one of the best places that you can be a guest on is Podmatch. Podmatch connects you with amazing hosts and amazing guests if you have a podcast. But if you are a guest and want to find some amazing podcasts to be guest on, check out podmatch.com. You're going to love the people that you meet. In fact, 50% of the people that have been guests on my podcast came through Podmatch, and I've absolutely loved the community. So check out Podmatch when you get a chance. Now, back to the episode. Philip, it's been so much fun talking with you. I love the nutrition, the gut health, the positive psychology, the evidence-based tracking of your own body. I mean, that's the best evidence, because you're going to throw everything out the window, even if people think you're crazy, but you see the evidence, and that's why we, I think, step on the scale every day. Take us through some of the hacks that you have for us that we can practically apply in our lives.
Yeah, I mean, the first hack that comes to mind is if something's really, really important to you, if it's the number one thing you want to go after right now, maybe it's lifting weights, maybe it's getting more sleep, you've got to prioritize it in your schedule as if it is the most important appointment with yourself before any business meeting, before any other appointment of the week. It's got to be scheduled in there. I think that's important for anything, but if you're going to lift weights, for example, it takes time. You've got to go to the gym. You've got to have that session built in. When are you going to do it? And if you're listening to this episode, you're like, I got to start doing that. Don't just leave it there. Get out your calendar and take a look. Does the morning work? Does the lunchtime? Does afternoon? Usually the morning works great for people, even if you're not a morning person, because it sets the stage for the rest of the day. It actually helps with your stress to lift weights. It reduces that cortisol curve, and it just pumps you up. Like, you're ready to go. You've accomplished some massive win for the day. And so that's hack number one, is schedule it in.
I love it. Scheduling that workout, scheduling in the lifting of the weights. I have a few dumbbells at home, so I can start at home and then, find the time to get the gym. Like, I need to build that routine up. I love that. Thank you. What's hack number 2 for us? Sure.
Hack number 2, if you're not ready for tracking your food, and you can always reach out. I know you're going to throw my stuff in the information about, I can give you information about how to track in more detail than we can cover here. The easiest thing you can change right now is every time you eat, have protein and fiber. That's it. Every time you eat, add in protein and fiber. Don't worry about cutting things out, or don't berate yourself because you had the fast food or the junk food or whatever. I just want every time you eat to ask yourself, do I have protein and fiber? Because what it's going to do is you're going to realize how many things you eat that don't, and you're going to figure out a way to add them in. Right? You're going to get resourceful. You're going to get creative. You're going to go Google or use AI. What are the high protein foods that and you're going to construct that, and you're going to realize it starts to crowd out other things. In the afternoon, you get hangry, it's 3 p.m., and you're like, you're going to grab for those tortilla chips. You ask yourself, do they have protein and fiber? Oh, no, they don't. What does? Well, a bowl of strawberries or some cottage cheese or, whatever you want to. So it's a massive transformation, even when you're not tracking, just to shift your diet.
Dude, that's a really cool way. Instead of taking things out, just add in protein and fiber. The thing that I'm having trouble is adding more fiber. So I need to find some more salads, some more vegetables that are going to add the fiber. I love eating apples, and I've been eating a specific kind. So I think I'm going to add a different types of apples into the diet as well. I'm like, hey, why as well?
Yeah, fruit is great. Fruit's one of the easiest because it's very portable and convenient and tasty. Yeah. Like everybody loves fruit. It fills you up. Not just for the benefits we talked about, right? But fiber, it takes time to digest in your gut and it fills you up for a long time. So it increases satiety and it actually causes you to just eat fewer calories.
I love that. Let's jump on to hack number 3.
Hack number 3 is schedule in a walk every day and ideally do it after a meal. So I would pick breakfast or lunch because the earlier in the day, if you can go outside and get exposed to vitamin D, the better, again, for your stress curve. I'm a big fan of, like, if we talked about the hormone cortisol, if you could get exposed to sun and actually move earlier in the day, your body will say, yeah, I'm a human. Like, that's what we do in the morning. We start moving and we go out in the sun. Yeah. And then the rest of the day, it starts to decline the right way into, sleep time. So schedule in a walk 10 to 15 minutes after a meal. This has a ton of benefits. One benefit is blood sugar control. Walking after a meal has been shown to be more effective than the type 2 diabetes medication metformin for blood sugar control. Secondly, it helps with digestion. I've had clients who report kind of, they get gassy, they get digestion. I'm like, start walking after meals. Boom. All of a sudden, it just helps regulate you. And then number 3, mental health. The mental health boost you get from walking. If you're having a bad day, you're having all those back-to-back meetings, and you go out for a lunch walk, even if it's 10 minutes, just watch how it changes the rest of your day and what you get done, the productivity. And it's been shown to actually do that, like physiologically. And then the last thing is it's good for your heart health and it's going to burn some more calories. Like that's a side bonus of just walking more and getting your step count up. All around, it's a good hack.
Okay, so I have a myth maybe that, if you walk after eating, isn't your body already working to digest that food? Like, aren't you taking blood or energy away from that to walking?
No. You're just, you're probably enhancing it because you're moving. You got you're moving, your intestines are moving, you got the blood flow.
So
it just helps it.
Juggling that even more. Okay, I like that. That. Sweet. Dude, these are some amazing and awesome hacks that I can actually implement. I can, once I'm done with this recording, I'm going to go out for a walk. Like, why not?
Yeah, do it.
And then put some workout time in my calendar and then look at some ways to adding fiber to my diet because we can all use a lot more fiber. It helps for a bit bowel movement. Like, you spend a lot less time in the bathroom. There
you go.
More. I'm all for that. Let's end on a light note, giving the audience a chance to get to know you more personally. I've got 6 questions ready for you. Ready for that?
Sure, let's do it.
Number 1, what is the one hobby that you wish you got into?
So I'm going to answer this and say there's a hobby that I want to get back to, and that is playing my saxophone. And
nice.
So coincidentally, Father's Day was this weekend, and one of my daughters, she wrote some music for me. She wrote a little song she wants me to play. So I'm like, all right, now I definitely have to bring out the instrument.
Have to get it. All right. Since you played saxophone before, did you ever play Havana by
the song?
Kenny G?
Oh my God! Don't say Kenny G.
No.
No. I played.
Tell me more.
I played real jazz. Sorry, I played real jazz, not smooth jazz.
Oh, so there's a difference between real jazz and smooth
there's
jazz.
a difference, Junaid. And you know what's funny is years ago on Sirius XM radio, there was a commercial or there was a jingle on the jazz station where the guy said, if you want Kenny G, you've got the wrong station. And I was like, oh my God, that's awesome that he acknowledged it. But I say it kind of, I'm kind of mean about it, but it is very different. Smooth jazz is like more of a pop type jazz, and then
Gotcha. It
straight
has
ahead jazz
more.
is its whole separate genre. Yeah.
That's where you have, so smooth jazz has more rhythm and more like it's like you said, it's more pop, so it has more
It's like elevator
structure to
music.
it.
I'll be honest. It's like elevator music.
Okay, it's
Whereas
elevator.
straight ahead jazz is like from the history of, you know, Dixieland to like
Okay.
Count Basie and Duke Ellington and, Charlie Parker and then John Coltrane, like the whole lineage of
Wow.
the great jazz musicians of the last century plus.
Y-
Yeah.
Do you have a jazz-based podcast? Because
No,
that could
no,
be
but
something.
I
That
love
that could
jazz.
be
I am
something.
passionate about it, but I'm not as up to it as I used to be. Yeah.
Okay. I love it. All right, next question. What did you want to be when you were a child?
I think I wanted to be an astronaut for a short while, but in reality, I just wanted to do something with computers or numbers. I loved
Mm.
math and science, and I always had the little. So I grew up in the '80s as a
Mm-hmm.
kid, and they didn't have, we didn't have computers. We couldn't afford a computer, but we had like the little toy computers, that they had back then, which almost, I don't even know if they exist anymore, really.
Sure.
And I knew I wanted to do something there. And what's funny is when I went to college, I was very interested in biomedical engineering until I realized it involved biology and medicine, and I didn't like those. And here I am into fitness and dealing with like biomechanics and biology. So, the way life works.
That's too funny, man. That's too funny. Because how because how life turns you around. That's so cool.
Hmm.
I'm in the same way. I grew up with technology. We didn't really have computers till it was like '95 when they were like more
Yeah.
apparent, and I've been building them. In fact, I just watched a video of this guy DIY perks on YouTube, Matt there, and he's done some really cool projects over the years. In fact, this latest one is called the End Game PC. So you're into PCs, you'll love this because this is a massive desk that he built, with a PC built inside the desk.
Oh,
It's
cool.
almost
Okay.
invisible. I'm like, oh my god, shoot, this is cool.
Nice.
So check out that video when you get a chance. All right, next up, what is your favorite movie or television show?
Braveheart, all the way. Favorite movie of all time. Braveheart with Mel Gibson, William Wallace. Just, it's like the most extreme example of a guy who has lost everything
Mm,
and will stop at nothing, overcome the biggest odds to get what he wants, to get what he wants. But it's not just because he wants it. It's because it's truly meaningful,
yeah.
between the woman he loved and then the country he's going to lose. It's just so inspiring. You watch that, and the tragic, spoiler alert, he dies at the end, but it's worth it, right? Like
It
he
is,
put
yeah.
everything into it. And you're like, if you could just be like that half, tenth of the time in your life
Hmm.
with what you're passionate about, you'll succeed.
He's done a lot of movies playing that very similar character.
That archetype, yeah, it's true.
That archetype. I'm like, wow, this really cool. And he plays it really well. I mean, and I don't know what he's doing now, but
He is. He is. I mean,
big fan of his
I know
movies.
he's a very hard working director and writer, and he really got into it with the costumes and all that stuff. So, in the history,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's right. Our next question: what movie would you choose if you got to play a character in it?
Oh, this is a hard one. I was thinking either Jurassic Park or Indiana Jones. So Jurassic Park, just because I love dinosaurs, and
Yeah.
even though I know they're fake in the movie, let's assume they're real. And then Indiana Jones. My kids and I, we just watched it, the original one, for the first time for them because
Yeah.
they're old enough now.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm like, who's cooler than that guy?
Nobody's cooler than that guy. It's so cool. And he's played, like Harrison Ford's played some really awesome roles over the years. I think
Yeah,
there's the
Han
latest,
Solo. Yeah, yeah.
like Han Solo and Star Wars series, and then this guy here, playing the president in what's that movie? The pre. I don't even remember that name. The name of the
You
movie.
mean is it a Tom Clancy movie? A Tom Clancy book
Probably.
movie?
It was the one about the
Yeah.
plane, like he's the president on Air Force One. There you go.
Yeah, yeah,
Force
yeah. Air
One.
Force One. Yeah, Air Force One. Yep.
Yeah.
Hmm.
All right, man. Next question. Who is your favorite superhero?
It's oh man, probably everybody says Batman, so it's like a toss up between Batman and Spider-Man.
Okay.
I actually play video games rarely now, but when I do, I always love like the Spider-Man games that came out
Okay.
on PlayStation. But yeah, Batman I like because he kind of got jacked on his own, and he went through this disciplined monk-like phase, and then everything he does is with gadgets, and then he's like an engineer.
That's true. He
It's not
absolutely
an
absolutely is
actual
one.
mutation. Yeah, yeah.
No, I've loved playing. I think I've played almost all of the Arkham Asylum or the Batman video game series.
Yeah, those are
So
good
much
too.
fun, and my son's now, he's 14, so he's getting in playing these video games. He's like, oh, these graphics are so amazing. I'm like, yeah, son, those are 10-year-old video game.
Hmm.
It looks
Hmm.
still looks so good. And they haven't. I don't think they've tried to redo that entire gaming series, but it's absolutely amazing. All right,
Totally,
last
man.
question.
Yeah, I love stuff like that. Where you just get lost in it.
Yeah. Last question. If you were a board game, what would it be?
We play a lot of board games. What would I be? I mean, Monopoly comes to mind. Just it's a
Mm-hmm.
classic, and also anybody can win. And I like the fact that it people have arguments about like the value of the game between like capitalism and is it a zero sum game or is it a win-win game. And
Yep.
my daughter, again, I talk about my daughters, they like try to help each other stay in the game as long as possible,
Oh, that's so
but
cool.
at the end of the day, like it ends up working out, right? Because they're both, it's a win-win, and they're both like thriving and getting millions of dollars, and eventually somebody bankrupts the other, So, but
Nice.
life is kind of like that.
It is. It's absolutely like that. Well, thank you so much, Philip, for this experience. I totally love it. Where can my audience find you?
I would check out the Wits and Weights podcast, and you can reach me on Instagram at Wits and Weights. Also, I could throw in. There's probably a free guide I can throw in for your audience on like nutrition, so we can figure it out and throw that in the show notes.
Absolutely. We'll put those links together so that folks can have access to the free guide, get access to your podcast, and connect with you on the socials. Thanks again so much, man. We'll definitely see you in the next episode.
Thanks, man. I love talking about this stuff. Thank you for having me on, Junaid.
100%. Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning into another episode of Hacks and Hobbies. We hope you found Philip Pape's insights on strength training, nutrition, and overall health as inspiring and actionable as I did. Make sure to check out his podcast, Wits and Weights, for more valuable content. Until next time, keep hacking and keep going, creating new content. I don't know. That's it. Thanks, man. Thanks again. And we'll catch you in the next episode.